There is something unsettling about Belgium right now. Not because they are weak, not because they are talentless, not even because they are easy to beat. It is more uncomfortable than that. They still wear the same red shirts, the same names still echo through stadium speakers. Kevin De Bruyne is still there, Romelu Lukaku is still there, Thibaut Courtois is back. The badge still carries history, the reputation still hangs in the air, but when you watch them closely, really closely, the feeling is different. The aura is thinner, the certainty is gone. And the 2026 FIFA World Cup could be the tournament that finally forces everyone to admit what Belgium fans have been trying not to say out loud. This team is not the same anymore. And that matters, because for more than a decade, Belgium lived on the edge of greatness. Not ordinary greatness, the kind that makes a nation believe history is waiting for it. They had the generation, they had the stars, they had the golden glow, they had that terrifying mix of elegance and power that made every bracket feel dangerous. In 2018, they finished third at the World Cup, the best finish in the country's history. But the deeper truth was always more painful than the highlight reels. The golden generation made Belgium famous, but never immortal. Then came the group stage exit at the 2022 World Cup, and then a flat, frustrating Euro 2024 that ended in the round of 16 against France. The decline did not arrive in one explosion, it came in pieces, quietly, publicly, brutally. UEFA Wikipedia, that is why this story is not really about whether Belgium can still win football matches. Of course they can, they have too much quality not to. This is about something far more dangerous at tournament level identity, because the old Belgium frightened teams before the whistle. They looked like a country racing toward destiny. There was momentum in them, hunger in them, a sense that they were building towards something bigger than one match, bigger than one summer. But this Belgium feels like a team caught between memory and reinvention. They are trying to honor a past that no longer exists while building a future that does not fully trust itself yet. That is a terrible place to live in tournament football, because World Cups do not care about nostalgia, they expose whatever you really are. And Belgium might be about to find out. You could already feel it in Germany at Euro 2024. The warning signs were there long before the knockout rounds, but the Slovakia game made the problem impossible to ignore. Belgium lost 1-0, and the score was somehow both cruel and honest. They created chances, big ones. Lukaku had 2 goals ruled out by VAR, one for offside and one for handball in the build-up. He also missed clear opportunities. Belgium dominated stretches of the match, but the same sentence kept returning. They looked dangerous without looking stable. Even Domenico Tedesco admitted the missed chances defined the night, and ESPN's report said the most revealing thing of all, there had been talk of a new Belgium, but the same problems persisted. ESPN, that phrase should haunt them. The same problems persisted, because that is the part casual viewers miss. Belgium's issue was never simply age. It was never just that some legends were getting older. It was that the emotional engine of the team had changed. In the past, Belgium played with the energy of a country rising. At Euro 2024, too often they played like a country defending an old argument. They were not chasing history anymore. They were trying to prove they had not lost it. And football can smell that fear. Against France in the round of 16, Belgium looked like a team terrified of chaos but incapable of imposing control. France won 1-0 through a late deflected strike from Randall Kolo Muani, but the scoreline almost made the game sound more balanced than it felt. Belgium's plan slowed everything down. At times, Kevin De Bruyne was operating so deep he was almost in front of his own back four. ESPN described Belgium as poor, said Tedesco got his tactical choices wrong, and wrote that Belgium could have played for hours without finding an answer to France's structure. That is not just a defeat, that is an identity crisis in tactical form. Because great tournament teams do not just survive pressure, they transmit it. They make the opponent feel the game on their terms. Belgium used to do that. Now, too often, they react. And when a team starts reacting instead of dictating, the whole emotional structure changes. That is where the Tedesco era really began to crack. On paper, Belgium was supposed to represent transition, younger, faster, less burdened by the old mythology, but the transition never felt clean. Courtois had been absent since June 2023 after a dispute over the captaincy. The tactical balance was inconsistent. Against Slovakia, Belgium were without their preferred central defensive pairing. Doku started on the right, Carrasco was used as a left wing-back, and the opening goal came after a poor Doku ball into his own box helped create panic in the defence. Again, this was not just about one error. It was about a team that did not always look sure of its own shape under pressure. Then everything changed. In January 2025, Belgium sacked Tedesco and turned to Rudi Garcia. That alone told you the federation felt urgency. Garcia arrived talking about getting Belgium's results back on the rise. He immediately opened the door for Courtois to return, calling him the best goalkeeper in the world. He spoke about consulting De Bruyne and Lukaku. Eden Hazard was brought in to assist him. It was not just a coaching appointment. It felt like Belgium trying to restore emotional order to a dressing room that had lost too much of it. But new managers do not erase old truths, they just reveal them faster. Garcia's first match in charge was a 3-1 defeat to Ukraine in March 2025. That should not be ignored because it mattered. Belgium were under pressure and they cracked. The debut felt like confirmation that the decay was deeper than one coach. But then came the second leg, and suddenly the story became more complicated. Belgium roared back, won 3-0, turned the tie around 4-3 on aggregate, and Garcia called it a night of pride that he hoped would lay foundations for what came next. That is the fascinating part about this Belgium team. Every negative truth seems to live beside a positive one. Every warning comes with a rebuttal. Every collapse is followed by resistance. And that is exactly why the 2026 World Cup is so dangerous for them, because tournaments punish unresolved contradictions. The surface-level numbers under Garcia look good. Belgium qualified for the World Cup as winners of Group J. They went unbeaten. They scored 29 goals and conceded 7. Kevin De Bruyne finished as their top scorer in qualifying with 6. On the outside, that sounds like a team that has recovered its edge. It sounds like stability. It sounds like the old Belgium, or at least a convincing imitation of it. But here is the real story. Look at who those numbers came against, and how Belgium beat Liechtenstein 6-0 away, then 7-0 at home. They beat Kazakhstan 6-0 at home. They were devastating when the opponent gave them space, when the talent gap was huge, when the match could be played at Belgium's preferred rhythm. But against North Macedonia, the opening qualifier ended 1-1. Later, at home, Belgium were held 0-0 and could not break down a resolute defence. Against Wales, they went 3-0 up in Brussels through Lukaku, Tielemans, and Doku looked completely in control, then somehow allowed the game to spiral to 3-3 before De Bruyne rescued a 4-3 win late. That is not the profile of a fully formed heavyweight. That is the profile of a team whose strengths are real, but whose emotional control is still fragile, and that difference is massive. Old Belgium controlled matches like a team with a shared memory. This Belgium often plays in surges. They can overwhelm you for 20 minutes. They can tear space open with one Doku carry, one De Bruyne pass, one Lukaku finish. But over 90 minutes, especially against disciplined teams, they do not always control the psychological rhythm of the game. Sometimes they chase it. Sometimes they survive it, sometimes they lose it entirely. That is why the squad itself tells a bigger story than the results. Garcia's 2026 World Cup group is built on a compromise. The veterans are still there: De Bruyne, Courtois, Meunier, Witsel, Lukaku. But the future is there too: Doku, De Ketelaere, De Bast, De Kuyper, Raskin, Fernandes, Pardo, and others pushing the shape of the next Belgium into view. Garcia even said balance was central to his selection, insisting the squad had to mix experience and youth while also getting on well together. That line matters, getting on well together, because in this team, chemistry is not a luxury, it is the entire case. And yet chemistry alone cannot solve the deeper issue, because Belgium's hidden problem is not that the old generation stayed too long. It is that they stayed long enough to cast a shadow, but not long enough to remain the full answer. That is a brutal place for any national team to live. De Bruyne can still change a game with one pass nobody else even sees. Lukaku can still bully defenders and turn half chances into goals. Courtois can still make the impossible feel routine. But tournament football is merciless to teams that rely on yesterday's certainty without fully trusting tomorrow's leadership. The younger players may have more legs, more explosiveness, more room to grow. What they do not yet fully carry is the same emotional authority, not the kind that bends a knockout match before the tactics even settle. That authority used to belong to Belgium as a collective. Now it flickers from player to player. One moment it is Doku dribbling through panic. The next it is Tielemans trying to stitch the midfield together. The next it is Courtois calming disaster. The next it is De Bruyne dragging the whole emotional centre of gravity back toward control. But when your identity lives in moments instead of systems, the World Cup becomes a mirror. It asks a question you cannot avoid. When the game turns dark, who are you really? Garcia seems to understand this better than anyone. He has tried to shift Belgium away from entitlement and toward clarity. He embraced the return of Courtois. He leaned into the wisdom of De Bruyne and Lukaku. He later handed the captaincy to Tielemans, a quieter but connective presence in midfield. He spoke openly about ambition while also saying he preferred the underdog position. That is smart. Maybe even necessary, because Belgium's best chance in 2026 is not pretending to be the old superpower everyone feared. It is accepting that they are something else now, something less glamorous, less romantic, but possibly more honest. But honesty in football is painful, because once you admit you are no longer the same, you lose the comfort of your old reputation. You have to earn a new one, and earning a new identity at a World Cup is one of the hardest things in sport. That is why the warm-up matches were so revealing. Belgium finished their preparations with a 5-0 win over Tunisia. De Ketelaere scored. De Bruyne curled one in. Luke Bacchio and Raskin came off the bench and made the scoreline even heavier. It looked smooth, clinical, promising, the kind of result that can make a country dream again. But Tunisia also went down to 10 men, and the match opened up exactly the way Belgium likes. Space appeared. Belgium breathed. The scoreline sparkled. The deeper questions did not disappear. Because the World Cup rarely unfolds the way a warm-up does. It tightens, it slows, it suffocates. Opponents stop playing the game you want and start forcing you into the game you fear. That is where Belgium could be exposed. If the match becomes about patience against a deep block, do they have enough structure? We have already seen North Macedonia frustrate them twice. If the match becomes wild and emotional, do they have enough control? We saw Wales drag them into chaos from 3-0 down. If the match becomes a game of elite margins against a disciplined heavyweight, do they have enough attacking clarity? France already gave us one answer. If Lukaku is not sharp, and FIFA itself noted he entered the tournament after a season hampered by injuries, where exactly is Belgium's ruthless edge supposed to come from every single time? And yet, that is not the whole story, because there is another possibility, a more dangerous one for everyone else. What if Belgium being different is not only a weakness? What if it is also the beginning of freedom? What if the death of the Golden Generation myth is exactly what had to happen for Belgium to become emotionally usable again? That sounds strange, but think about it. For years, Belgium walked into tournaments wearing a crown they had never truly won. Every summer became a trial. Every match was judged against the impossible promise of 2018. Every veteran was compared to his peak. Every younger player was asked to continue someone else's script. That can suffocate a team just as much as tactical confusion can. But if Garcia can make them accept the underdog label, really accept it, then Belgium becomes something more unpredictable. And unpredictable Belgium is dangerous, because then De Bruyne is no longer a symbol of decline. He becomes a final weapon. Then Lukaku is no longer a monument to wasted potential. He becomes a match turner. Then Doku is no longer asked to replace a generation. He is simply asked to terrorize full backs. Then Tielemans is not carrying ghosts. He is carrying tempo. Then Courtois is not returning to fix old drama, he is returning to save moments that define tournaments. That is the line Belgium are walking now, not between success and failure, between memory and self-discovery, and the World Cup will make them choose. That is why this tournament could expose everything, not because Belgium are fake contenders, not because they are secretly terrible, but because the 2026 World Cup is the perfect stage for a team caught between eras. It will strip away weak opposition, it will punish emotional instability, it will magnify chemistry, it will isolate every tactical flaw, it will turn every hesitation into a chance for someone else. And if Belgium are still living off the remains of what they once were, the tournament will show it to the whole world. But if they finally accept that they are not the same anymore, then maybe that becomes their rebirth, because maybe the truth Belgium have spent years avoiding is also the truth that can save them. The old Belgium is gone, the beautiful, tortured, almost great Belgium of the golden generation is gone. It is not coming back, not in the same shape, not with the same emotion, not with the same innocence. And maybe that is exactly the point. Maybe the 2026 World Cup will expose why this Belgium team is not the same anymore, because it will reveal the one thing numbers, names, and highlight reels keep hiding. This team is no longer defined by what it once promised. It is defined by whether it can survive the moment that promise finally dies. If they cannot, the world will see a famous badge with fading illusions. If they can, then Belgium's next chapter will not begin by recreating the past. It will begin by burying it. And that is why this Belgium team isn't the same anymore. The World Cup could expose why. Belgium might finally have to decide whether that is the start of their collapse, or the first honest step toward becoming something new.